and a half troubleshooting your broken ass computer. How was your day been?
And by troubleshooting, you mean just saying screw it and using my phone?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, well, in that case, it's great.
You know, the best part of you having to say screw it and using your phone is for me?
I can't use other language that I'd prefer to use.
No, you have to wear a shirt because otherwise your man titties are all over my screen. Don't point that down there. But this is not a podcast about Travis's man titties. This is a
Or
podcast
broken ass computer.
or broken ass computers. This is a podcast about Magic the Gathering. Specifically, this is episode 82 of True Trolls and a Brew. Scribe of the Mindful is the title of this week's show. Subtitled Failure to Comply, which is what Travis's computer has done. It's awesome. You turn it on, it makes this lovely series of beeps that I thought sounded a lot like grinding.
Yeah, you guys want to hear it?
Oh my gosh. I guess you could. If we have to.
It's pretty great.
Some computer genius will listen to it and be like, I know exactly what's wrong.
Yeah, so here we go.
I hope it works.
I'd be so pissed.
So much quiet silence.
Yeah, well,
You gotta plug it in. Not only does it have to
No, here we go. Here comes the beep.
All right. Yeah, that sounds like a posting issue to me.
Isn't that lovely?
Like there's something wrong in the posting. Because we watched the startup and it posts part of the way through, and then it just like does that. So I don't know. I'm out of the computer repair biz. I was never in it, but I'm out of it now for sure. So I guess we just jump right into it. So, he's figured out a way to get in bed.
Yep, just laying down.
Maybe this should be the new title of the show, In Bed. Anyway, so let's jump into the show and see if we can't muscle through this thing here.
Right.
This week's troll cards, I have chosen Scribe of the Mindful, the show's namesake card, and you have chosen Sequestered Stash. Which one do you want to talk about first?
Let's talk about yours first, because I forget what it is.
Okay, so mine is actually a Amonkhet card. Amonkhet, whatever you want to call it. And I got one right here. It is a 2/2 for a blue and 2 generic. It's a human cleric. And it's a 2/2, like I said. But it has 1 generic, and tap it. Sacrifice Scribe of the Mindful. Return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand.
Okay.
So I drafted 3 of these last week. And I have fallen hardcore heads over heel for this card. When we get a little bit more into what the draft was this week, I think you too will see the glorious I Lived Magic Christmas Land. Like, this is when I start going through my draft this week, this is a Travis deck of epic proportions. But generally, I think this card is just surprisingly good. The original subtitle before Travis's computer decided to take over the world was actually how many counters are you running? Because it was so often, particularly at Friday Night Magic this last week, that Scribe of the Mindful just meant all sorts of cards were available at any time. Including, I ran 5 main deck counterspells.
Jeez.
And with the 3 Scribe of the Mindfuls, I mean, clearly that was like 8. And then when you factored in a couple other cards, like Wander in Death, like it didn't matter. Kind of once I got going, it literally didn't matter what they were going to do. I was just able to set up an engine that just took over the game. No problem. Assuming 1 or 2 other pieces kind of kicked in that we can get into after the fact. But I would like to figure out if there's a way to use this card in Standard. It feels powerful to me. It's reminiscent of There was a 2/2 in, I believe, red, and then of course there's what, mnemonic wall
Hmm.
from the way back. It costs like 5 mana to do this similar effect, where you can return an instant or a sorcery generally. The option of getting one or the other, it doesn't matter, is pretty awesome. And instead of it being like an enter the battlefield trigger, the fact that the creature comes down for 3 mana, has a reasonable body, not great, but reasonable, and then just costing one additional mana, so essentially it's a 4 mana ability, um, is actually pretty good, I think. So I think this is a creature worth keeping our eye on, uh, especially in some weirder formats when you can do stuff like give everything haste or um, flash in a 2/2, activate your wild pair, go tutor it up, go, with the ability to give it flash or an end of turn, give it haste or whatever, and then regrow something important. Um, like I feel like there's a real potential with Scribe of the Mindful. Again, maybe it's only a limited card, but the fact that certain, like if you have a bomb sorcery or instant, um, say something like Stir the Sands, it can really give a lot of life. I don't know what. Now that you've kind of had a chance to think about the card, and I've rambled on, do you have any kind of thoughts on this kind of card in general?
I think it's great in a control build that would be heavy with removal.
Right, I can see that. I was unable to draft one of those like exile target creature spells,
Hmm.
and it was the one thing that I was kind of felt like I was missing. Um, so I could definitely understand. Like if I would have had one of those, I think I would have been just completely unstoppable.
Right.
As it was, I ended up going 3-1, and I lost to the deck I drafted the week before. Essentially, that super aggressive red white aggro deck, where I had basically my best draw, and they were just like, well, I didn't draw any more land. How about I just play 4 dudes by
Right.
turn 5 or whatever, or 7 dudes by turn 5? And I'm just like, okay, that seems good. But even that matchup, I was able to take it to 3 games. So I don't know. I felt like I was in it. Sequestered Stash is a weird one.
Yeah.
I had to look it up.
Right.
And did I close it?
So essentially, it's a land from Kaladesh. It makes a butthole mana, or you can tap 4 and sacrifice it, and then you put the top 5 cards of your library into your graveyard, and then you can put an artifact from your graveyard on top of your library. So, I had actually, I was playing around with the metalwork Colossus deck,
Right.
and like, wasn't it you that said that reverse engineer wasn't good in it?
Correct.
Okay, well, you were right. Uh, every time I played with it, I sided it out every single game. Um, and then I did, however, go to um, 3 efficient constructions just
Okay.
just to make tons of chump blockers and blah blah blah.
Right.
Um, so the reason sequestered stash is coming in is because after the game, or after the event or whatever, which I still went 2-1, so that's all right. But afterwards, I realized the thing that really hurt me was not getting enough artifacts, obviously, but also tap lands. So I actually took out the fetid pools, the one where the bicycle land.
Sure.
And then I took those out, and I took out the Spire Bluff Canal, the blue
That one,
red
right, right.
Fastland.
I was going to say that one seems a little strange to me.
Fling.
Sure, I know, not that part, the cutting of it part.
Oh,
Maybe just trimming.
nah, two of them was too much.
Okay.
Yeah, so I took out the bicycle land and the fast land, and I put in um two sequestered stash, and I have to remember the name of the other one. Two unknown shores, which that
Okay.
one I tap a generic in it to make a mana of any color. So, oh yes. Now you get the unstableness of my hand as I move around all the time because that's what I do when I talk. Um,
It does make a very interesting video podcast, I tell you what.
what are you looking at? Oh yeah, it's right over here. Anyways, so yeah, I actually found that even though I have four colors of mana that I actually use in the deck, I only need colored mana for
A small number of the spells.
9 spells, and two of them cost 6, three of them cost 4, and the other two are irrelevant unless I'm throwing a Colossus at your face. Uh, so, and then all of my lands, even though they only make butthole mana, they all produce colors.
Right.
So that's why I took out the bicycle land and the fast lands because I was playing with it and it's irrelevant to have them there.
Sure. So it doesn't sound that bad to me, to be fair. I'm not a big fan of the tap 2 mana to make one kind of things, which I think is the downside of something like Prismatic Prism, I think is what it's called.
Yeah,
Is that you essentially end up tapping a land to filter the mana. And when you're doing
right.
2 lands, it's generally very bad.
Yeah,
Um, where it's less bad, I think maybe in your deck, if you do the one that taps a creature to make a mana, it's like
yeah,
the drum but land.
right,
I think it's from the Battle for Zendikar block somewhere in there.
right.
Maybe that'll be better. Maybe it won't. I'm not sure. You'd have to test it. But it sounds like if you're using the efficient construction and like really getting in there with those, that it's possible by the time you need that colored mana, you have a 1/1 laying around that you could tap.
True.
Um, Also, you could use something like the Naga, the 1/2. It taps for any color mana that your lands can produce. Sorry, it taps for any mana that your lands could produce, so it can make butthole mana if you need it to. Um,
Well, see, and I don't actually use the butthole mana.
sure.
It's just kind of there because all of the cards have secondary effects.
Well, and
Like
I think
I
your deck in
have.
particular has a good opportunity for you to sideboard into like a very aggressive Eldrazi's shell
Oh yeah,
that
no,
does
it
use
does.
butthole mana, right? Like your deck, the Fling deck, from what I remember, is very easy. You could put in 4 Reality Smashers, 4 Thought-Knot Seers. It's
Mm-hmm.
very easy, those 8 cards, and your mana base is already there to support it.
Right.
So it is a possibly very, very good for your mana base to do that. Um, like you pull out some artifact, some middle of the road stuff, and you just come in from this completely different angle of attack.
Right.
Um, but at the end of the day, I don't know how much it really matters. I don't know how much you're going to play this deck. If it's something that's was a fun Friday Night Magic, and now it's time to throw in the corner.
No, not this one. Because I've actually been like, even when I was brewing other decks, like after I built this and played with it, I'm just like brewing other decks. I'm like, this is I want to go back to the Colossus.
Sure.
Like everything I was doing, I was like, no, I don't want to do this. I want to play the Colossus.
That's a good
Um,
feeling.
yeah. So the other two cards that I have in here, uh, they were last minute. Well, one of them was the last minute edition. I think the other one we already argued about, but it turns out it was really great. And that's the Tezzeret Master of Metal.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So this one, every single time that I played him, he was just ignored. Like, okay, you get card draw, whatever. Like that's how every single one of my opponents viewed him was. I mean, as long as he doesn't get to 8, then I'm good. I can survive passes. So they just ignored him and ignored him and ignored him. Yeah, exactly.
I don't.
And every single time it's reveal the cards from the top of your library until you get an artifact, put it into your hand. And I'm running a complete artifact deck that revolves around throwing a Colossus at your face. Why would you want me to have more artifacts that make it easier to do that?
So I tried throwing out this as a theory about what would happen to certain planeswalkers going forward, specifically Sahili Ra.
Mm-hmm.
That people would just go into ignore them mode. Like their plus ability is just not that big of a deal. And if you minus once or twice, it's dead. It doesn't matter anymore. And basically, as I posed it that way, people are like, yeah, because I'm not going to stop and kill the 4 mana or the 4 loyalty planeswalker. You know what I mean? And it's like, I
I
felt
think
like people would ignore it and rush. But
yeah,
it looks like that is not what's going on. It looks like people are attacking the planeswalkers. So the fact that your opponents didn't kill your planeswalker, like I'm going to call him a bad planeswalker. You can call him whatever you want. Because I think that's probably what you were, coming up against is people who are labeling this planeswalker as bad or irrelevant.
right.
And therefore they were just like, whatever, who cares? But when the bad planeswalker beats them once or twice or whatever, now suddenly the bad planeswalker turns into, okay, I guess I just have to go back to killing every single planeswalker as soon as possible.
Right.
And I think that mindset's going to come back in to play very, very hard here in this new standard as people kind of like get settled in. And I definitely think after a few planeswalkers really rock some Pro Tour decks, like I'm still suspecting 5-color or 4-color Saheeli is going to be a deck, but it's going
Mm-hmm.
to be 4-color Saheeli where you're just using these value creatures to do things, and then you're going to have like randomly 8 planeswalkers in your deck, and it's going to be like 4 Saheelis, 2 Chandra, and two other ones kind of randomly chosen based off of how you want to play, what kind of game you want to play. And it could be even more than that. It could be as many as 10 planeswalkers. Because I tried it. I put it together. I fiddled with it. I think it's close. And it may be that I had too many planeswalkers in the deck, but it felt ridiculous. Like, here's planeswalker number 1, and here's a couple, a chump creature or whatever, and then here's planeswalker number 2, tick tick, and then oh, you still can't deal with the second one. Like, okay, this one goes down to 1 or whatever, and then I play another planeswalker, tick tick tick. And I think that there's enough good planeswalkers, a variety of casting costs, that I think we're just going to start seeing them now. And there's
Yeah.
enough good flogs again. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But anyway, overall, you like your deck.
Yeah, and the second card that I added last second,
Okay.
Combustible Gearhulk.
See, that was the card I was more excited about.
So nobody knew what I was going into the first round,
Right.
and then I played a Gearhulk on turn 5, and they're like,
Please tell me they're like, sure, whatever, have some cards, or don't have any cards, I'll take some
Yeah,
damage.
they said go ahead and mill. I'm like, oh, okay. So I reveal the top three. It's Master of Metal, Implement of Design or Implication, the blue one,
Right, the blue
the
one.
3-drop one, and
And a
and the
Colossus.
Colossus, and they're like, okay, and I'm like, that's 20 damage. They go, well, shit. And then everybody's like, what happened? He goes, well, he just one-shotted me. I'm like, what? How? Just let him draw cards, you guys. Like, that's what he said.
So before we get too carried away, I guess I wanna tangent on this for just a second. Um, so I've been driving around, going to the gym, doing all these things. That's where my mind like wanders for Magic Brewing lately. Honestly, has been more at the gym than any other place, and I really like the idea of some sort of like red control right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because of the new Pyroclasm plus Goblin Dark Dwellers. Like the ability to cycle it early when it's a problem. Like keep your
And then
single
get it
target
back,
spells
yeah.
and then get it back with because the Goblin Dark Dwellers lives through there. And I was thinking about my creatures being Goblin Dark Dwellers and Combustible Gear Hulk, and maybe touch white for like cast out and Nahiri.
Okay.
But I don't know. Like I don't have an exact list, which is why I didn't want to talk about it too depth this week. But I'm back on Combustible Gear Hulk is good right now as well.
Well, and then
And
even if you did splash white, you could get the white Gear Hulk in there because that's still a board wipe if you're playing a control deck.
sure.
It's a board wipe that gives you a 4/5 and still lets you keep your cast out on your opponent's creature.
So I guess the reason why this has been floating to mind so much lately is a friend of the show, Sean Z Dyke, Mr. Z.
Happy 30th.
Happy 30th, yes. Happy birthday belated yesterday, I think.
Yep.
He has been brewing, and I just wish he would send us his ideas to the show so we could like fine tune them for him. Like he comes up with really good core ideas, and then somehow manages to stumble all over the execution in my feeling until
Yeah.
until finally somebody's like, no, do this and this and this and this and this, and it starts to come together. So what he has been working on is this red black control deck with a minor, not really a minor in aggression, but like he's trying to take advantage of cut to ribbons and stuff like that in these really super high converted mana cost of cards, specifically with Sin Prodder, which I think is very good right now. So if you're like Sin Prodder and Combustible Gear Hulk, one or two Goblin Dark Dwellers, and then reasonable instants and sorceries to kind of like get ahead and grind through. I feel like there's a deck there. And I guess that's part of the other thing that I've been thinking about is like, so how many times do you have to cast the spell that gives your creature plus X plus O equal to its power and then double strike on something with like a Combustible Gear Hulk or a Goblin Dark Dweller, something with like a pseudo evasion, especially after you've already cleared the board down to like maybe one creature or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, man, this seems really potentially very, very good. Especially if you're trying to accelerate into 6 mana spells. Using something like what's the 3 mana vehicle that taps for mana? It's like something
Caravan. Yeah.
So like something like that Caravan, or even that 2 mana artifact now that taps for mana equal to colors in your graveyard. Like even that seems good right now with spells like Cut to Ribbons. Or I can't think of what that that white spell is called. But like if that's your only white spell in your graveyard, you tap, float a mana, and then cast it. Like it still seems fine.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm just kind of all over the place. I've got a bunch of embers in the fire, and I haven't really solidified on any one thing. But I don't know. I guess to kind of end this thought real fast before we get into the draft this week, because we're at 25 minutes already. Um, what do you think of Heaven and Earth right now? So that, or Heaven to Earth. So that's the split card. I believe
Right.
it's an instant speed hurricane,
Yeah.
and it's a sorcery speed pseudo earthquake.
Right.
So the reason I like it, I think, is because I'm under the impression that Glorybringers are going to take over standard. And if you can be like, okay, 5 mana, and do something, plan on something at instant speed. I don't know what exactly. But assuming you're Bant, maybe, and you're holding up like Spell Queller or something else, and they go accelerate into, or they just play their 5th land and drop a Glorybringer, and they go to attack you, you can just kill it. Or worse yet, if they Glorybringer, Saheeli Glorybringer, and they're like, go to attack step, and you're like, okay, in your pre-combat attack phase, 4 damage, kill your token, kill your Glorybringer, I'll attack back Saheeli for lethal. I don't know.
Well, see,
I it feels good to me.
And I haven't actually played against anyone with Glorybringer except for in draft. Like, nobody here has cornered him, I guess.
Are they still cheap there where you're at? Because if they are, you need to send me 3.
I can always check at the local stores. Because I know I opened one. Oh, hell, people are like $11 or some crap. I don't know.
Yeah, he seems very, very good right now. And like, I'm looking at adding them into the Saheeli deck as a Belloward Guardian replacement of sorts, in the sense that might as well just have it.
Right.
So yeah, I'm not sure. Just as a value creature, I feel like that's where they want us to be. They print all these combo cards in standard, and then they're like, no combo for you.
So, speaking of glory.
Okay.
Glorious End. That card's amazing.
Which one's that?
The one where it ends the turn, and then at your next end step you lose.
Okay.
So, if you end the turn on their upkeep, do they skip their draw step too?
Yes.
All right. Sounds like a great card. I love it. Let's play.
Okay.
All right. Go back to your draft story now.
Okay, so draft story. This week's draft, first of all, once again, I drafted what I feel to be one of the sweetest decks. So my opponent, Chris from the show, who is one of the tougher area players, right, is sitting on my my right, so he's feeding me, and he opens the 3-1. They're calling him Baneslayer Angel now, but he exerts to make himself to like a 4/4 lifelink or something.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Glorybound Initiate maybe is the name. So he opens that, and he takes it, and he passes me a pack. And I open Drakehaven, a card I haven't had a chance to really play with. So I'm like, okay, sweet. I'll take this Drakehaven and see what happens, right? So he passes me his pack, and he's in his mind, because we talked about it after the fact, he goes, well, I'm going to pass you a red card, right? Like, in his mind, the only other card that was good in the pack was a red card, like a Magma Spray or the 4 mana removal spell, something. But what he didn't realize is that there was a Ruthless Sniper in the pack.
I love that card.
I'm like, okay, well, I can't imagine a better uncommon for my deck, so I guess we'll do this. Well, in Chris's mind, he's like, all right, I put him on red with this awesome removal spell. Now I'm going to be the red-white aggro deck, and I'm just going to cut all the red cards and all the white cards. right? And I'm like, sweet, I'm on this black-white cycle deck. So he starts passing me greats like Sensor was the next pick. And then somewhere in this pack was the Visor of Tumbling Sands, which is actually super, super sweet. I'm really impressed by this guy.
That's the untap, right?
That's the untap. And then, like, fourth pick, I got Faith of the Devoted. So, like, I literally had the payoffs, right? I'm like, okay, well, can I get enough cyclers to make it worth it? It turns out that answer is yes, because I was able to pick up a Stir the Sands, which is kind of what I was talking about before in one of those cards that I got to Stir the Sands early. And that's what made me start taking the Scribes of the Mindfuls, right? So I started taking them under the idea of like, well, I can regrow my Stir the Sands or whatever. So if I need to, I can make it a 2/2 early, draw another card, and then whatever, who cares? And then I think I topped things off with like a Floodwaters, right? So that was like basically pack 1. No big deal. Pack 2, I don't know. I take like a foil Champion Aronis or whatever he's called. Some card that's basically unplayable in what I'm doing. But I'm like, well, it's foil. It's like $8 probably, whatever. Who cares? So they passed me 2 Sacred Excavations, which is the return 2 cycling cards to your hand. And then they started passing me Wander in Death.
Oh,
and of course, and somewhere in here, in this pack too, they passed me the red-black cycling land. So, like, my deck just kind of turned into this monstrosity. I think I had 4 or 5 Wasteland Scorpions. I had a River Serpent. I had, like I said, 2 Cancels, an Essence Scatter, the Censor, and a Reduce to Rubble, like as main deck counter spells. And then I ended up picking up even more of the bounce spell, the 6 mana Floodwaters. So what ended up happening, which I think was really sweet, and it makes me think that I entered Magical Christmas Land, is I would get one of my payoff cards, say like the Drakehaven or the Faithful Devoted, right? And then I would get 1 to 2 Scribes of the Mindful. I would get Wander in Death, and then I'd get something like a Visor of the Tumbling Sands or the big 5/5 that cycles for a single blue. And basically what I was able to do was cast the Wander the previous turn, play a Scribe, keep up a counter spell, right? And then sacrifice my Scribe to regrow the Wander, cast the Wander, return the Scribe and whatever generic cycler that I got that costs like 1 mana, and then replay the Scribe. I would have won pretty much every single game, I think, that I managed to get that combo going, with the exception of, again, that red-white aggro deck.
Right.
And there was one game that I was playing against Nathan, another friend of the show, that where my Drakehaven was literally the last card in my deck. And that was my out. I had to get like 6 flyers or something to like overpower his flying to force. After like taking many turns, I mean many turns of me regrow the bounce 2 guys, regrow my, like I was chaining the regrow true cycler cards to regrow the bounce spell and the regrow 2 creatures spell to regrow my one of the return spells, one of the Scribe of the Mindfuls, and a 1 mana cycler. I had so much mana on the board that I was doing all of these each turn to try to stay alive, and just like digging for one of the payoff cards to kind of get into action. And I still think I would have won that game had I not screwed up and played the black 1/2, the give -1 counters, because he took my flyer that was holding back the team and gave it that pacifism enchantment, and I only had 1
Yep.
mana up. And had I had, I think it was at 2 life maybe, or maybe that's when I was at 1 life, and he could attack me for 2 damage, but not 3 or something. So and I was like hiding behind my flyer. Had I had an extra mana up, I could have sacrificed that flyer and went back to 3 life, fell back down to 1, and then proceeded to take back over the game again. So, yeah, mistakes were made, but it was a lot of fun. Needless to say, land go mode is a lot of fun, but it definitely puts you in positions where you can make errors. Because you don't know when you're going to make that mistake. It's something that Chris was talking about last week, where I told him that I think I was just in the mood to play land goes in standard right now. He's like, well, but you don't know when you made a mistake, right? Like when you think about playing a combo deck or playing a creature-based aggro deck, you can pretty much figure out when it is that you made a mistake. Where playing something in the land go style, you might made a mistake on turn 3 when you played the wrong kind of land and not realize it until turn 7. Especially right now with like the cycling lands. Because you might go, oh man, I need to play my tap land on 2 so I can have 4 mana on turn 3, but it may have been right instead to just play an untapped land on turn 3, keeping the cycle land for later in the game when you need to cycle that card instead. So and that's just one example. Basically, I think part of the reason this has come to mind this week in particular is, one, I was definitely in that mindset all last week, right? Like after the Fellow Guardian stuff, it has taken me this long to kind of work my way out of that funk. Oh shit, you banned my card. And now I'm starting to see a little clearer again. But I was watching LSV play that blue deck last week on the stream, and literally he timed out one opponent in the mirror, and he ended up losing one of the games because of a mistake. And he's like, wow, I think I made a mistake by playing this land on turn 3 or whatever, where I should have just held it to cycle. And then it's those kind of mistakes that you don't really see at the time. And I don't know if I'm a good enough player to correct those kind of mistakes. You hear where I'm coming from? Of course you do. You read my mind.
I mean, but the thing is, like, know that you made a mistake, though, until it's too late anyways.
Right. Well, but the problem isn't that the one game that you make the mistake. The problem is game 2 where you end up making the same mistake, or game 15 where you're on the bubble and instead of cutting to the top 8, you make that same mistake that you've been making all day and you don't realize it's a mistake because you've gotten away with it until then, you know? So let's switch gears. It's been a while since we've had I don't want to say it's been a while because we had Brews last week. But it's been a while since we've kind of like really dug deep into a build. And last week I sent you, I think it was last week, I sent you this build. It would be because he's on his phone, the last deck I sent you, Travis. What I'm calling the Blue Rising Sun.
The Kefnet?
Yes, it starts with Kefnet.
Okay, then yes, I see it.
All right, sweet.
I'm just not looking at you anymore.
Oh, that's reasonable. I'm not looking at you anymore either.
Good.
So this deck list is, first of all, before I get into what the actual contents of the list is, I was really inspired a couple of weeks ago by this inspired Drazi deck that people were playing. Basically, it uses Inspiring Sanctuary and Key to the City, like we've talked about it. right, as like its draw engine.
Mm-hmm.
And what I wanted to do is I wanted to play the mono blue control list, but use Trail of Evidence to get ahead. And so then I have multiple draw engines going, as well as additional ways to make mana. Again, something we've talked about many times is, playing, being the control deck or being the end of turn deck, and like cast some crazy spell that makes a clue, and then we use that clue for mana. Well, now there's a payoff card, right? And that payoff card is Approach the Second Sun. So my thinking was, if I can get to a point where I'm tapping 6 clues and a single white mana and keeping up, 7 mana or whatever, it's pretty easy to cast more Approach the Second Suns that way, right? So this deck list is 2 Kefnets, 3 Torrential Gearhulks, 4 Censors, 2 Essence Scatters, 2 Negates, which is the mix that I kind of like right now. That could be wrong. It could easily be 4 of one and 0 of the other, and then switch them around in the sideboard. I'm not sure. 3 Disallow, 4 Engulf the Shore, 4 Glimmer of Genius, 2 Confirmed Suspicions. Seriously, my favorite counterspell right now. 2 Commit to Memory, 2 Approach the Second Sun, 3 Key to the City, 4 Inspiring Statuary, 2 Trail of Evidence, and 22 lands, of which only 4 are not islands, and those are, 6 are not islands. Those are Aether Hubs and Inventors Fairs. And Inventors Fair is really cool, especially with Trail of Evidence. So, like, it's easy to get the 3 clues out that you need to make Inventors Fair active, and people just don't realize it. So you're like, end of turn, sacrifice my Inventors Fair. They're like, whoa, you can't do that. Like, 3 clues, bro. I'm like, oh, okay. And then you go get your Inspiring Statuary, and you're like, boom, win the game.
Right.
However, in playtesting, I found the Keys to the Cities were not good. They just were not the card that I wanted. So I think if I were to revise this, I would cut some Keys to the City, go up Trail of Evidences to 3 for sure, and then I'd add like something. I'm just not sure what. Whether it's another main deck hard counterspell like Essence Scouter or Disallow or Negate or something, or if it's something a little more outside of the box, like a what's the return all permanents to their owner's hand? Crash of Tentacles, maybe? Crush of Tentacles?
Yeah.
Maybe
Crush Tentacles.
something more outside the box like that. I'm not sure. But I definitely feel like the keys, because we have the clue generation engine with Trail Evidence, I don't think you need Keys to the City. Like, if you're going to spend 2 mana to draw a card, you want it to be at the end of their turn, not during your upkeep. Where the Eldrazi deck, it didn't matter. Like, you were fine paying 2 mana during your upkeep because tap that for mana anyway. So
Right.
It's really like 1. But when you're keeping it up as a counter spell, it's just completely different. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on this guy?
I don't like control decks.
I have respect for that.
I still don't like the Ether port or the Ether hubs, simply because it takes away from Engulf the Shore.
So in retrospect, after playing it, I think you're probably right. At the time, I wanted more untapped white mana, but I don't think it matters. I think they could just be islands.
Yeah.
Or they could be the black-white or black-green cycling. Sorry, black-blue cycling lands.
Right, because that still gives you more island.
It does. It gives you more island, but also it gives you the option to put in like random good black cards.
Yeah.
Or random black card, I should say. But carry on.
No, that's basically it. Like, I
Okay.
think the deck would be fun to play, just not play against.
Well, I think that's the idea.
And then I take out the ether hubs. That's really all I have for the deck.
Right. Well, yeah, and like I said, I think it took playing it. This is one of those decks that you couldn't just totally theory craft. Um, and I think originally I was in my mind I was going to run like one or two Dynavolt towers in the list, and it's possible that three keys to the city come out. One becomes a trail of evidence. One becomes a Dynavolt tower, and one just gets cut because the list currently is 61 cards with three keys to the city. So I could easily just cut a key to the city forever. And then you could easily take those Aether Hubs, switch them into the polluted Delta S cards, whatever it's called.
Mm-hmm.
And then in your sideboard, you could put in To the Slaughters, or you could put in I'm trying to think of another one that kind of does similar things. The Liliana's Oath of Liliana, or you could put in, any number of single casting cost black cards. You probably don't want a bunch of them, but you could do it. So, I don't know. Overall, I thought it was a lot of fun, but yeah, that Aether Hub key to the city interaction is bad. But I will tell you, there is nothing quite as much fun as going white, tap these clues, approach of the second sun,
Yeah.
and they go, okay, whatever. And you go crack a clue, crack a clue, crack a clue. And they go, what? Like end
Yep.
of turn, you're like crack, 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 a draw three. Then you untap, draw a card, and you're like crack a clue, crack a clue, crack a clue. Zook. Second sun.
See, a deck that I was playing around with, and maybe if you're trying to get to the second sun quicker, you might want to do this instead of the key to the city. There's the blue sorcery from the set. Target player mills 5.
See, I got some of those. I wanted to ask you about that. I drafted some in this week's draft,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't play them, but I've been seeing other people play them. I can't. No, it's not in this pile. But it's a single blue cycle card.
Yeah.
So it's got some play. I don't know how much I like it. Over something instead like Pieces to the Puzzle. Like Pieces to the Puzzle seems better to me.
Right.
Has that effect, like I'll throw these extra things into the graveyard or whatever. But still, it's good. Something else I've been seeing people do with Second Sun decks that are similar to this is they put in the insubstantiate.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't care. Second Sun, when you cast it the second time, doesn't care
Right.
if the first one resolves. It just cares if the first one was cast.
Right.
So if you cast it again for a single white mana, right? Because you tapped all these clues that you've been generating, and you put it back in your hand, and you tap another white mana, and like say, three other lands and some clues, then
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden you cast that second sun in the same turn because your card draw spells that were sitting on the table suddenly also become mana.
Right.
So that's something else to consider, is that it's possible that all of these essence scatters and all of these negates become insubstantiates instead. And then there's the new split card that basically does the same thing, but I think it costs 3 mana.
Yep.
So it's possible that also could come in. It just depends on how all in you are on Approach to the Second Sun and doing it that way.
Right.
And I'm not sure.
So I was actually it's not because of Approach to the Second Sun that I was doing it. The deck I'm running is the Splendid Reclamation, kill everybody all at once with the Retreat to Hagra.
Right.
So my deck, it has 10 fog effects. and 12 spells that all do the same, like look at the top 5 or mill 5, or do stuff like that.
Right.
And just the mill 5 card was probably one of the 2 mana. Throw probably 5 lands in the graveyard. Oh, sweet. Didn't want them anyways. I wanted them there. That's where they belong. But like the deck I'm running, it's got that. It has the pieces to the puzzle and benefactor of Ronus.
Okay.
So that way, look at the top 5, get this retreat to Hagra. Target enchantment, and then throw the rest in the graveyard.
Yeah, like I said, I think there's a lot of interesting self-mill cards now that kind of make this stuff go.
Mm-hmm.
And it's possible that that's the kind of deck that wants something like the Scribe of the Mindful as like its creatures.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I want to regrow this bad sorcery. Is that cool? And they're like, I guess, whatever. And you're like, whoop.
Well, see, and that's why I have 3 Wildest Dreams in the deck. So that way, because I only have like 2 swamps, and I kind of need those to play the to play the retreat.
Right.
So during my play testing, I found myself using Wildest Dreams to get a land back, and then just ignore everything else in my graveyard.
So again, on the way home from the gym yesterday, I started thinking there is like the Long Road or something like that from Shadows over Innistrad.
Fork in the road.
Fork in the road. You like go find 2 basics, put one in your hand and one in the graveyard, or maybe it's in the play tapped or something.
Nope, it's in your hand.
In your hand, and I was just like, maybe that card is good now. Because of the cycling lands and the desire to play something like Splendid Reclamation.
Right.
Because maybe that fixes your mana and puts a card in your graveyard.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I've been thinking about a lot of this kind of stuff, mostly because I've been really inspired by this deck list that I just kind of found earlier by one of our favorite guys, Ollie Andraze, which would be probably the first picture I sent you, Travis.
Yep, the one with the Ulamog.
With the one with the Ulamog. So this deck, first of all, I don't necessarily love some of these card choices. I'm sure he's got a good reason for them, but overall, some of them I'm a little leery of. But so this deck is 26 lands, which is pretty sweet. 9 forests, 9 islands, a Blighted Cataract, which I don't think sees enough play. 3 Lumbering Falls, 3 Botanical Sanctums. And then creature-wise, 2 Ulamogs, 3 Uvenwall Captives, which I do like, and 4 Naga Vitalists, which I'm less like. I think I would rather have either a Mana Rock, or I'd rather have like a sorcery that does this, basically, that goes and gets a land. Like Into the Waste, or there's a new one that's a split card. It costs 3, but I think it's a source or an instant. You go find a land and put it into play. Like, I think those are good now, but I could be wrong. 15 instants, of which 5 are Fog, 2 Pull from Tomorrow, 4 Censors, 4 Commit to Memory. I really like Commit to Memory in mana acceleration decks. So, like, you accelerate, you get all these lands out, and then you're like, what do I do? You're like, well, I shuffle my library. What do you got? You got nothing? Well, I've got Ulamog times 2 or whatever. Sorceries, Crush of Tentacles, Part the Water Veil, 4 Nissa's Renewal. And then he's got 4 Hecon Archives, which I think should probably be Cultivator's Caravans instead, but maybe going from 4 to 6 is more important than going from uh, 3 to 5.
Right.
Me, I'd rather be able to, again, drop like to be able to haze a pollen and do something else. Seems better to me than like going from 4 to 6. So on turn 5, you have potentially, I guess, potentially you have 7 mana for Nissa's Renewal. Is that right? So on turn,
6 mana.
well, because you have 4 mana to play it, right? You
Right.
untap, you have 4. You make a land drop, you go to 6 or you go to 7. So I suppose if you want to Nissa's Renewal as quickly as possible, maybe that's the way to go. But I don't know. Like I said, it looks like he took 54th at this SCG Open in Atlanta, which seems pretty exciting to me. There's a write-up at gatheringmagic.com. So
Yeah, but 54 out of how many?
a lot. I didn't look at the entire tournament, but I think it was well over 200, I believe.
All right.
So I don't know. Overall, there's a lot of things I like about it. I kind of want to play a fog deck right now too. So like in the Saheeli Raw list that I've been looking at, I've actually been thinking about running 4 Haze of Pollen.
Yeah.
Just so I can overextend with Planeswalkers and just be like fog you a couple of times before my Planeswalkers grab value. I think it's very well positioned right this second. I don't know. Would you play a big mana ramp deck like this, Travis? Is this something you'd be interested in?
Yeah, but I'd also want to put in the rare. Like, I think I'd have it more creature based ramp, because you have the one drop from this set, the 0/3, that you can pay 3 to sack it and get a basic land. So it starts off as an early game chump blocker. From what is it? The human druid. He's a 0/3 for 2 mana. When it dies, you go get a land.
Sure. The problem is that
So
guy's hard to kill.
it's a 0/3. You can chump.
Yeah, I mean they have to attack into it in such a way. Right now, it seems like you're facing down 4/4 flyers with vigilance on turn 3.
Yeah, probably.
Heart of Kiran kind of dominates the aggro now.
But that's what fog is for.
It is what fog is for.
I mean, you're running a turbo fog ramp deck. Why are you worried about the heart?
Right. So this is where I start to disagree. I want to play the cards that turn off their removal spells. So for me, I think I'd rather pay the sorceries that ramp you, or run stuff like the Visor of Tumbling Sands and Mana Rocks, right? So I can untap them. Like if he was running 4 Visors of the Tumbling Sands, then Hedron Archives make complete sense to me.
Okay.
Because now suddenly 2, then I tap a green or a blue, I untap that, and I generated what, 2 mana that way? Is that right? Because it cost me 2 to cycle, so I get a new card. Plus I untap my Hedron Archive.
Right.
Yeah, I made 3 mana and drew a card for essentially 1 blue. So that makes more sense to me if you were to have that card in the deck. But I mean, the man knows mana rock decks better than everybody. Travis is waving wildly. That's the hour warning.
Yeah, isn't that the hour warning?
That's our cue for 1 hour.
Me just flailing around like ah!
I mean, technically, we have 30 more seconds before we get to an hour recording. So we have a few more seconds until we get there.
It's just a few more seconds.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm interested to try it. This feels like a Remy deck to me. Remington likes to play ramp decks, and now Travis has turned his phone. Never mind, he's back.
Yeah, no, I was just like, just kind of zoning off. Oh wait, no.
Like you turned the phone and your head was at a weird angle. I'm like, Jesus. All right.
Yeah.
Anyway, one more deck to kind of go over. This week's email deck comes again from Nathan. This thing I think is pretty sweet. Let me pull this up here. It's got some cards in it I don't like. In fact, I have another little story to kind of go along with some of the cards I don't like. Man, it is not going to pull up that individually. Let's just full screen. Okay. So this is a Simic deck, creature based. I think the idea is it's a Nissa Steward of the Elements deck plus bounty of the. I can't even think about how you say that. Is it Lexa?
Hold on. Let me zoom in.
Let me zoom in.
Bounty. Yeah, Bounty of Lexa.
Of Lexa. Okay. So this deck, I think is reasonable. It's got 23 lands, fast lands, man lands, Aether hubs, some basics. Overall, I'm pretty pleased. 4 Greenbelt Rampagers, 4 Chandler Initiate. Now, if you were to tell me when we were talking about the ramp deck before that you like this Chandler in the deck, I could be a little bit more on board because it turns into a threat. But
well, I was just giving you examples.
I know. I just there's so many 1 and 2 mana removal spells now. You have Magma Jet, Shock, Cut to Ribbons. It's just creatures are bad. 3 Weavers of Current. Again, I feel bad. Right? It's a 2 mana or it's a 3 mana 2/2 that taps for 2 butthole mana. But it just dies to everything.
Right.
2 Query Hauler, 2 Arterback Stompers. That's the gain 5 life trample guy, who I am a fan of. I don't know if I play him in standard, but I like him. 4 Crocodile the Crossings. This is Green Fireball. Don't be fooled, everybody. Green Fireball. Rogue Refiner, which we've talked about and loved in the past. Attune with Aether, which I don't understand why you're running Attune with Aether in a 23 land deck.
So that way you can play the Rampager on turn 2 and not have it bounce.
Yeah, but I don't think you care. Maybe you do.
I know I don't.
Maybe you do, but I don't think I do. Then the 4 Nissas, 3 Cartouche of Strength, and the 2 Bounties. So yeah, there's a bunch. Oh, I guess the 2 cards in here that I hate most of all. 2 Scaled Behemoths. So, quick story.
What's that do?
It is a 6/7 hexproof for 6 mana.
Oh yeah, ban that idiot.
So basically, this week's draft, right? We were drafting through, and somebody passed me not like late, but like reasonably late one of these, and I'm like, well, I guess I better hate it. And Scott, who was sitting next to me, started laughing. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, I hate to know what kind of card that it is that you're hate drafting. So I pick up the card, I rip it in half, and I give it to him. So the only deck that was able to beat me a couple of weeks ago was Scott playing this, where basically he had like 6 big fat guys, and I 2-for-1 myself a couple of times to kill his big fat guys.
Right.
And then he played the Scale Behemoth and gave it flying with that blue enchantment. So it turned into a 7/8 flyer with hexproof, and I just died. That's big. So this guy is my new draft enemy. I don't even know if I was in the green deck, if I would play him because I hate him so much. I probably would. Ass butt. But I don't know. Overall, I think this has got a lot of stuff in here that just dies to removal spells, which is not where I'm at right now in Standard. What do you think? You were just talking about how you wanted more creature-based acceleration.
Right. And I mean, if we're going blue-green, I want a playset of the enchantment. So that way, if you get multiple on the field on different turns, then it's like every turn you're gaining gaining mana and drawing a card.
Sure. Seems fair. What about, again, something like Visor? Like, do you think Visor goes in this deck? Because you have Channel of the Initiate, you have Weaver of Currents. It really only works with those two, but it gives you an opportunity to go up to 4 Weaver of Currents for value.
Right.
Like, okay, you didn't kill my Weaver of Currents. Let's make a bunch of mana. And then let's hit a big payoff card. The other comment I have is maybe instead of the haulers, like I'm not really sure what hauler's there for unless it's just to get more counters on Nissa. Or to give you more energy, I guess. I don't understand where all the payoffs are for doing certain things. The deck seems like it wants to be aggressive early and accelerate into Nissa to finish the game, and maybe that's the idea. But then why do we have cards like Scaled Behemoth that just are big stupid guys who have no evasion?
Right.
I guess if you put the green enchantment on it, they get trample. So I don't know. It feels weird to me, but I can understand if you had something that was, I don't know, maybe a little bit more like punch. And again, maybe that's where you put in the Visor and more of the Weaver of Currents, maybe some of the artifact acceleration, and you're just like, let's play Nissa and alter the same turn, but on turn 4.
Right.
And maybe that's the way to be. I'm not sure. So anyway, that's all the things that I have pre-planned for us this week. Travis, instead of figuring out a game this week, was trying to get his computer to work. So instead, I'm going to do the closing, and then I want to give you some pickup lines, and I want you to grade them on a scale of 1 to 5.
Okay.
Okay, can you do that? So,
yeah.
As always, if you'd like to, you can reach us at samusguerrero.com. That's where we keep all past episodes of this podcast and all our other podcasts. If you jump over to youtube.com/samusguerrero, you can watch all the video versions of this podcast. I don't know how many episodes it's been since we started recording this on YouTube, but it's been a little bit, so there's a nice big fat pile there.
32.
32? Is that just you guessing?
Yes.
Okay.
That'd be a pretty sweet guess, though, right?
Apparently there's 32 back episodes of video podcasts, so if you'd like
No, we started on 32.
Oh, we started on 32.
Yeah, that's my guess.
This is probably reasonable.
Why should I be right?
So, if you'd like to send us an email, like Nathan did, like so many of you have done in the past, the number 2trollsbrew@gmail.com is our email address. We check that about twice a week, to be fair. So, we've got a couple of emails from some other people wanting us to do some stuff. I've sent those emails to Travis, so when Travis decides he's going to take a look at it, make some time, we'll make some time. I also want to ask you to check out twitch.tv/SamusGuerrero. That's me. That's what I try to make money as a streamer. This month's streaming goal will go again to Magic the Gathering decks. I want to try getting more Magic into my weekly streams, so please check that out. And of course, follow us at Twitter. Travis is TurtlePower319, and I'm again Samus Guerrero, all one word. All right, Travis. Scale of 1 to 10. 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. This is like a 5-star kind of thing.
So how is it a scale of 1 to 10 if 1 is the worst and 5 is the best?
1 to 5. 1 to 5. Girl, are those space pants? Because your butt is out of this world.
2.
Have you ever used that?
No,
I've used stuff like that before.
because I have yet to meet someone's ass that is that good.
Tonight, this hand doesn't want to fly solo. For some May 4th action for y'all.
That's a solid 4.
Solid 4.
Yeah.
Um,
Skin.
let's see. You remind me of an overdue library book because you got fine written all over you. I love this. This is
That
like
would
my favorite
that would work better as a parking lot or a parking ticket.
parking ticket.
Yeah.
So, what, a 1?
Yeah, but if you change it to parking ticket, then it's again pretty good.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, because like, girl, you have a parking ticket because you got fine written all over you.
Okay. Okay.
Because I mean, seriously, who even pays library?
I don't know. I don't know. You just turn the book back and they don't ever say anything. And then you go into
This is
another
overdue,
book.
and you're like, yeah, I know it's overdue. What are you gonna do? Well, nothing. Okay, shut
Not gonna
up.
let you get another book until you pay the fine. Yeah,
Oh
you will.
crap! I guess I'll just go download it.
Just go. I don't have the money to pay the fine right now. Okay, well we'll just move it
Yeah,
forward. Hey Travis,
yeah.
are you a Disney princess? Cause you're Cinderella fine.
Send a fucking hang up. Bye.
Troll on
Jeez.
everybody.
Troll on.